In the heart of World War II, amidst the chaos and brutality, moments of profound humanity flickered like candles in a storm. Today, we delve into one such story, a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can choose compassion over conflict. This is the story of a soldier named Hans, whose act of mercy in a moment of absolute power redefined the meaning of heroism. Our story begins on the Eastern Front, a place where the line between right and wrong had been blurred by the relentless machinery of war. Hans was a young German soldier, barely out of his teens, thrust into a reality he could never have imagined. He had been taught to see the enemy as a faceless monolith, a threat to be eliminated without question. But war has a way of stripping away propaganda, leaving only the raw, undeniable truth of shared humanity. One frigid afternoon, Hans's unit captured a small group of enemy soldiers after a fierce skirmish. They were exhausted, terrified, and defeated. Among them was a young man, probably the same age as Hans, with eyes that held not hatred, but a deep, haunting fear. The prisoners were herded into a makeshift holding area, their fate hanging precariously in the balance. Orders were often brutal and swift. As the day wore on, an officer, hardened by years of fighting, gave Hans a chillingly simple command: take one of the prisoners behind the barn and deal with him. The implication was clear. It was a test, a routine act in a theater where life had become terrifyingly cheap. Hans's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at the prisoner chosen for this grim fate. The young man was shivering, not just from the cold, but from sheer terror. Hans led the prisoner away from the others, his rifle heavy in his hands. Every step was a battle within himself. The indoctrination he had received screamed at him to obey, to see this man not as a person, but as an enemy, an it. But when he looked at the prisoner, he saw something else. He saw a son, perhaps a brother, someone with a family waiting, with hopes and dreams that were about to be extinguished in a cold, forgotten corner of the world. Behind the barn, away from the prying eyes of his comrades, Hans gestured for the prisoner to stop. The young man closed his eyes, bracing for the inevitable. The silence was deafening, broken only by the whistling wind. Hans raised his rifle. His finger hovered over the trigger. This was the moment of truth. He could follow orders, snuff out a life, and further numb his own soul. Or he could make a different choice. In that heart-stopping moment, something inside Hans shifted. He couldn't do it. He couldn't become the monster he was being asked to be. He saw the shared humanity in the prisoner's trembling form. He saw himself, lowering his rifle. Hans looked the prisoner in the eye. He didn't speak the man's language, but his actions spoke a universal dialect of mercy. He gestured towards the woods, a silent command: run. The prisoner's eyes shot open, wide with disbelief. Was it a trick? Confusion warred with a desperate flicker of hope on his face. Hans gestured again, more insistently this time. Go, run, live. The unspoken words hung in the air between them. The prisoner hesitated for another second, then turned and bolted into the thicket of trees, disappearing like a ghost. He didn't look back. Hans stood alone for a moment, the weight of his decision settling upon him. He fired a single shot into the air. When he returned to his unit, he reported grimly that the task was done. No one questioned him. In their eyes, he had passed the test. But Hans knew he had passed a much more important one, a test of his own conscience. He had chosen to preserve a life when he was ordered to take one. This single act of defiance was incredibly risky. Had he been discovered, the consequences would have been severe, likely fatal. But for Hans, the risk of losing his own humanity was far greater. He had stared into the abyss of war and refused to let it consume him. He held on to the part of himself that knew right from wrong, the part that recognized a fellow human being, even in an enemy's uniform. What became of the prisoner? We may never know. Perhaps he survived the war, returned to his family, and lived a long life, forever carrying the memory of the enemy soldier who showed him mercy. What we do know is that Hans was forever changed. That moment of compassion became a defining point in his life, a secret anchor of morality in a sea of madness. He had learned that true courage isn't always found in the heat of battle, charging at the enemy. Sometimes the greatest heroism lies in the quiet, solitary act of choosing mercy when you have all the power to choose otherwise. Stories like Hans's are vital. They remind us that history is not just about dates, battles, and strategies. It's about people. It's about the individual choices made in extraordinary circumstances. It's about the soldier who sees a human being instead of a target. It's about the capacity for empathy that can survive even in the most brutal environments. These moments of grace don't erase the horrors of war, but they illuminate the resilience of the human spirit. They prove that our conscience can be our strongest weapon and our greatest guide. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of history. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more true stories that explore the profound depths of the human psyche during wartime. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, remember the humanity within the history.